I see Barbara. I see Barbara
Hi there.
Ehrlich is on there, and she is a brand new member of the Rep Hope Douglas League.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome,
Wonderful.
welcome. Great. And new members and returning members.
Oh, I see a question in the chat. Renelle, you're asking about access to the previous trainings. Those are, if you go to the State League website and click on the YouTube icon, I think it's in the upper left-hand corner, you'll be able to access the trainings there, plus any of the other recordings that we've made along the way. That's kind of a shortcut way of getting to them. And Hannah, am I right in thinking that we'll send out the links afterwards too, so you'll have it via email?
Yes, I just sent the second link in the chat for the most recent training, and then I'm going to add the first one in now. And then, yes, we will send a follow-up email afterwards with all of the video links once we post this one, any information talked about today, that type of thing. So you will all have that at the end of this meeting.
But I think it's important for people to know that if you go to the State League website, and there's a row of very tiny icons at the top left where Andrea was pointing you to, and the YouTube one, I always just look for the one that's red and white. I think it's the second one from the right, because I couldn't see that it says YouTube on there. On mine, but I know now to click it. So welcome everybody. Yay.
Yeah, this is a great group.
So on just a second, I will show that. So here are all those
it's that one.
those little icons. So this one is YouTube.
That's YouTube.
So I'm thinking, again, if you have not renamed yourself with your name and your issue area, please do rename your Zoom name, and then in the chat, put your name, your local league, and your the issue area you're planning to cover, and use the hand raising icon. I think we're ready to start, are we?
I think so. What time is it? Oh yeah, it's 6 minutes after. Get it and get
Yeah, super. So this is welcome to part 3 of advocacy and lobbying training. We are going to do a deep dive into the weeds today. This is LAC is Legislative Action Committee, and we are going to do a dive into the tools that and processes that the Legislative Action Committee, LAC, uses. So hang on to your hats. But also, sorry, I'm having trouble advancing there. We're going to mostly talk about lobbyist activities and tools to support your work. We will talk some about league relationships and team relationships. So teams within the Legislative Action Committee, like the healthcare team or the revenue team, the environment, climate team. We'll talk a little bit about action alerts and ballot issues, but mostly we're going to talk about activities and tools. Hannah will be, thank you, Hannah, you are fabulous. We'll be sending out this slide deck afterwards. And so do not worry about clicking on trying to copy down all the links and all these things that you see in the presentation. You will get this deck. So what are I've forgotten how many steps we have, 5 or 6 steps for being in the Legislative Action Committee. Plan, please, to participate in LAC meetings. We meet every other Friday morning, starting next Friday morning. from 9 to 11. Oh, what I didn't say on the previous slide, session starts this coming Monday. So expect some, those of you old timers will expect some bill dumping. Fair number of bills being introduced early on. The purpose of the LAC meetings is to talk about key legislation that impacts our positions and to vote on whether we will support or oppose or ask to amend or just monitor the bill. Key legislation, there will be about 700 bills introduced this session. We will follow about 100. A lot of them, some of them we don't have position on, some of them are minor bills. Some of them we may not have anybody covering that topic. A lot of them will be minor things that are not worth our time to follow it. That is the recurring link for our meetings. And again, that will be in some of what Hannah sends out. At least to the LAC members. We are, with the exception of Andrea, who's actually a professional. Thank you, Andrea, for lending your expertise. It's wonderful. The rest of us are volunteer lobbyists, and we're required to register with the General Assembly. There's a link to the registration form. It's one page. It's very simple. I filled it out in 5 minutes. Print it out, sign it, scan it, email it back to the clerk of the House of Representatives. It references the guidelines for lobbyists. Please look through those. They're pretty straightforward. Tell the truth. Don't buy things for legislators, but do read through them. These are our issue areas. We have people covering most, though not necessarily every single one of these topics. Justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion, JEDI, is a foundation at the National League level. We want to use that lens in looking at all of our bills. And so if there is a JEDI aspect to a bill, we should mention that in our bill summary. But there may be some bills that fall between the cracks, but have a JEDI aspect to them. And so if someone covers diversity, equity, and inclusion specifically and watches for that in the bills that no one else is covering, that would be helpful as well. Sorry. Step 4. Sample bill summaries are in the advocacy toolkit on the State League website. And so you can look at those samples. We may add a couple more samples. I don't know. We should probably talk about that. So what does it mean to monitor legislation and track bills? First, look for key legislation that in your issue area. And Andrea will, I think it's Andrea is going to walk through how to find those bills. And then talk to your issue area team. Is this a bill that we should be tracking? Should we support it? Should we oppose it? Read the whole bill. Bill summary doesn't always give everything that's in the bill. In fact, usually doesn't. And there can be some zingers hidden. And when a bill gets amended, the summary is not necessarily changed. Make a bill summary. Again, talk about it with in your team. Write up a bill summary and your recommendation on the bill position that you'd like LAC to adopt. Send that to Andrea. Go through it with your team first, send it to Andrea. Once LAC has once LAC has voted on a bill and Andrea puts that into the Colorado Capital Watch, which is a bill tracking software that she'll walk through for us, then calendar alerts for bills in that topic area will go to the people who are covering that topic area. The General Assembly website has a ton of information on bills and bill status, scheduling information. We've got 3 slides coming up on helpful links. And again, Andrea is going to walk through some of the General Assembly website. If you see a measure that might get referred to the ballot, please let Andrea know, because one of the things we do after session is find all the things that are going to be going to the ballot. And it's not always an easy thing, so we could use your help, please. Andrea, is this yours?
It can be.
Oh.
For some reason, I had a note that I was starting at 12, but I'm happy to jump in here.
I can do this. I can do this too. Either way. Here is the General Assembly website. And you can look at all bills or all bills condensed, which I sometimes do. Were we going to do this live?
I don't think so. This is
Okay.
because
This is okay.
this is just showing where to go. This and the next slide both are showing what they're going to see.
Yeah, and so here's a list of, this is last session bills because there aren't any 2023 bills yet. So House Bill 22, so it was 2022 session, 1257, so it was the 257th bill introduced. And here's the name of the bill, sponsors, and the last action, one sentence, and the last action on the bill. There's a subject drop down, which works, I think, pretty well for everything except revenue. And I'll talk to the revenue team when we meet about that issue. And so you can find the topic that you're covering and drill down to the bills on that. I talked about issue area teams. Use your team, please, for deciding what legislation to track, for looking at positions to decide whether though to support or oppose bills, for additional training on writing a concise bill summary. Most bill summaries don't need to go further than half a page. We're going to meet for 2 hours, and so we need to fairly briskly present our bills and our recommendations. Use your team to choose who is going to present a bill to the LAC and who is going to offer testimony in a committee. One of the wonderful things about a team is if the committee is going to be meeting Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you have a doctor's appointment, somebody else, you can ask someone else in your team, help. Can someone else give this testimony. Andrea, where are you picking up?
Well,
I think
there's
this,
one more, I think there's one more thing to say about working in collaboration.
Yes.
And that is, if a team cannot come to an agreement on the stance that they're going to recommend, then the Larimer, or not the Larimer, the Colorado League will not take a stance or testify on it.
Yeah.
So it's worth working well, in collaboration with your team.
Yeah.
If you don't have a team, if you are the single person who is following a topic area, we can all help you with this. Maud, Andrea, and I can help you with this and think through it. So
Yes, and if you're a new person and you're the only person on a topic, we also have other mentors who have old timers, who experienced people who have offered to help mentor as well. But thank you, Kathy. That's an important point. If we are looking for a unanimous recommendation from a team, and if there isn't one, then go back to the team and rehash, or we don't take a stance on the bill.
there's a question that I can't seem to see.
Oh, when do teams meet? Teams meet whenever they want to. No, it's not part of the Friday meeting. The Friday meeting is to present what the teams have come up with. The teams decide when they meet.
I will jump in to say that I think the team approach will be a little more clear after the Friday meeting, when we have a sense of who all is participating in LAC and what kind of issue area coverage we have. So don't worry about this too much now. People that have been participating in the LAC in the past and are planning to cover the same issue area, you may kind of have a sense of what your team looked like from the year before. But if you're a newer person to LAC, don't worry about this too much during the next week. I think this is going to become more clear once we, kind of know who all is in the pool with us.
Super.
And Maud, I think this is the slide
that you're picking up. Great.
Yeah, that works. Okay, so we are going to shift now to talking a little bit about the bill summaries. Maud mentioned the process for monitoring legislation, doing a broad assessment of your issue area to see, which bills you think we might want to follow, and the process for bringing those to LAC. In really kind of getting an understanding of what LAC needs to know in order to make an informed vote, as well as what we want to post on the website. Excuse me. We wanted to go through some of the points that are on this slide that we think really make up the key components of what should be in those summaries. Longtime members of the LAC will be very familiar with this, so hopefully this will serve as a good reminder. Newer members, we're hoping that this slide is something that you can refer back to, as well as some of the summary examples that we have in the LAC Advocacy Toolkits to help you construct them. But please know that you can always ask me, Maud, and Kathy for help on this too. But essentially, as a starting point, obviously we're looking for bill number, title, and sponsors, kind of that basic identifying information. Then one of the most important things we want to include is the relevant position that is impacted by the legislation. So, what LWVCO position are we basing our support or opposition for the bill on? And just a brief explanation of why we think it's important to pay attention to this bill in light of its impacts on that position. And then we would like to do a brief bill summary, both in terms of the position, but also, any information, it may be, some status information, kind of that basic sort of thing for context. But what we think would be particularly useful, both for purposes of LAC discussion and for posting on the website, you can see and understand what's happening with the bill, any interesting information that you might glean from the hearings, from testimony, any stakeholder conversations that you're having, just kind of that additional insight that you can't readily get from the General Assembly website. We would love to see that kind of information in the bill summary. And then, of course, we do want to, really identify any JEDI impacts, really calling out how we think the bill implicates issues of justice, equity, diversity, or inclusion. And Maude, I see you have a hand up.
Just real quick, Peggy pointed out we can also use LWVUS positions, which, yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
Great
and we'll
point.
be
Yes.
covering that too as well. So.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so in this step, we want to talk about, what it looks like to monitor the bill's progress is moving through the General Assembly and the policy development process, and provide you with some information on how you can participate in the committee hearings, whether you're, tuning in or appearing in person to, really just monitor or to provide testimony. One of the key resources that you'll need here is accessing the committee information that is included within the General Assembly page. And I think this is a live link here that we might click on to show you what we're referring to.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, so you can navigate to the committee page, and then you'll see the House and Senate committees of reference, which are the ones that during the session, these are the ones that we're really focused on. So, as you start following legislation, you'll notice that your bills are getting signed to particular committees. You come to this committee list, you can click on the relevant committee and find information on the scheduling and, take a look at agendas, that sort of thing, to see, what other bills are going to be heard that day, that sort of thing. As well as you can kind of catch a glimpse there down at the bottom of the committee members, and that'll help you, with outreach, if there's some communication that needs to take place, if we want to do an action alert focused on members of the committee, that's where you get the committee membership information and email contacts. And it also is helpful in just, figuring out how to start off and address your testimony, whether you're, addressing Madam Chair or Mr. Chairman of the committee. It just kind of gives you a sense of the membership. So some helpful information there. And then you can kind of see the scheduling and agenda there at the bottom too.
And upon adjournment means upon adjournment of the floor session.
That's a great point, Maude. Thank you for bringing that up. I know some of you have had very frustrating experiences with upon adjournment, as I have as well. The tricky thing about the morning committees is that, as Maude said, upon adjournment means when, they adjourn floor proceedings for the morning. And, there's times in the session where, the schedule gets a little more predictable and, adjournment can safely be assumed to, be maybe an hour or so after they convene. But then there's other days where the schedule can get really crazy, depending on, what kind of floor work is happening, if they're, dealing with legislation that's controversial and is requiring a lot of debate. The schedule can get really crazy. And I wish there was a better answer for you to help manage time. The best thing I can offer is that when you find yourself in this situation and you're really struggling to figure out exactly when this committee hearing is actually going to take place, looking at the status board link, and we've got that information in one of the slides a little bit later on, will provide you the most real-time information as to what's happening. So that's a great resource if you find yourself in this, long-awaited adjournment period. Okay, and then let's see.
One sec. I need to.
I think you were in the right place.
Yeah, sorry, gang. Okay, sorry.
Maud, I actually think we're still back one more. There were a couple points. Just quickly, I know we've got a ton of slides, so I'll move quickly. We just want to make mention about, the importance of following proceedings, the hearings in both chambers. So if we feel that a bill is important enough to testify on in, say, the House, if that's where it's originating, likely we're going to want to testify on it in the Senate as well. So just, kind of a no, especially for new people, to make sure you're following it through the process, because things can, it could potentially be killed, it could be amended, there's important action that takes place throughout the entire process. So we want to pay close attention to that.
And it may not, and it may be showing up in more than one committee. It may be starting in the House. For me, it would be starting in the House Education Committee, but then it might go to the House Finance Committee next, and testimony might be appropriate there. So you have to keep track of where a bill is going.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And then next we want to make sure that you're aware of the link that's included here. Floor proceedings and committee hearings can be monitored in person. You're always welcome to go and either sit in the gallery for floor proceedings, or committee rooms for the committee hearings. Or you can also monitor both of these remotely, and you can access the link there for information on how to get connected into that. And then with testimony, again, we always welcome in-person testimony if you would like to go down to the Capitol and do that. But because, we are a statewide committee, we know that's not convenient for everyone, and remote testimony is a great tool to take advantage of, whether you're in the Denver metro area or Durango. It's just something that's really helpful and allows for more public input and testimony. And through that link on the slide, you see we're navigating to it now. You can click to sign up for remote testimony. It'll kind of take you through the steps of what's going to happen, what kind of information you need to submit. It's really pretty basic. Mm-hmm. One thing I will note is it's going to ask you for contact information and a phone number. If for any reason you're uncomfortable providing your cell number or address information like that, please know that you can always use the State League office for this purpose.
And I saw a question. I can't access it on mine for some reason, but I saw a question, I think, in the chat.
Let me take a look here. Let's see, does LIC publish routinely a quarterly report or updates on the bill's status, reference to LWV issues, topics, and legislators voting? We actually are going to get to a slide, I think it's the next slide, that will show you, yes, here we are. So this is our master bill tracker from last year. And we update this continuously through the session as we start to follow more legislation as additional bills are introduced. And so this one is a comprehensive list of everything that we followed in the 2022 session. It's got, I want to say, around 110 bills on it, which is pretty typical for the number that LEC follows in a session. And this is compiled through the Capitol Watch system. I'll be inputting the bill numbers and positions that we're assigning. I will be taking your summaries that you write up and putting them into Capitol Watch. So this information is available for you all and our members, as well as the public, to kind of have like a real-time update of what we're following. But the nice thing about Capitol Watch is that it updates every 24 hours. So the status information, like committee room assignments, all that kind of thing, it's automatically getting updated through the system. So we don't have to do that more basic function. So that's really nice. And that kind of gives you a glimpse of what this looks like. It's available through the Legislative Action Report link on the State League website.
And I'm going to add that what you're going to see next is I just took out the very last entry on this slide and put it on the next so we could make it live, and Andrea can go through it.
Yeah, this is a great way of kind of getting a sample for those of you that aren't familiar of the various information that you can get through that master bill list, and the level of information that Capital Watch provides. So you click on the bill number, and it's going to take you to this information here that's got a lot of links embedded with it. You can kind of see, obviously title, in this case, status, made it through the process, became law, signed by the governor. You can see the subjects. These are the tags that the General Assembly website utilizes. When we were a few slides back talking about how to do subject matter searches of the bills with that drop-down menu, it had a variety of topics that you could click on to see the bills that fall under those topics. These are the areas that you would find this bill in. And then you can see, what the committee assignments were when it was introduced. This is the Capital Watch summary, which is pretty good in itself. But I want to point it out because, this is basic information that it's not tailored to the league in any way. So when we're talking about the summaries that you all provide, this is where we really want to distinguish what we are writing to emphasize how league positions are being affected by a particular bill, why we consider it to be important, and those additional pieces of information that you're gleaning through your lobbying activities that aren't readily available just through the website. So we want you to really kind of distinguish your summaries in those specific ways. And then you'll see a whole list of other links that will give you more information on the bill. You can go to the full text from this page. You can look at past versions of the bill. You can check the vote status in the House and Senate. But one thing I think we definitely want to click on is the fiscal note, because this is an important part of the analysis that you all will be doing. Fiscal notes sometimes, oftentimes, don't come out simultaneously with the bill itself. So it's quite likely that you're going to need to check back, but it's an important piece of information because when we're making decisions about whether or not we want to support or oppose a bill, depending on how it impacts our positions, we want to take a look at, the fiscal impact too, because that's just part of the overall assessment and analysis, and we want to know how the appropriation or financial piece is playing out. The other thing that long-term members of LAC can tell you is that sometimes the fiscal summaries that are listed here, like summary of legislation, it's oftentimes written in a much more direct and clear way than the bill language itself. So if you're kind of struggling with the language of the bill, thinking, what is this really saying, or what's really happening here? If you read that in companion with the summary of legislation in the fiscal note, you'll probably get a much better sense of what's going on, because they just have a way of capturing it in a very clear, direct manner.
Mm-hmm. But you can't just read the summaries. You have to read the whole draft of the bill and amended drafts of the bill, because it really makes a difference in understanding what the legislators are actually saying and actually asking for in their bill. Yeah, that's a great point. The fiscal notes tend to be relatively short. If you're dealing with a super long bill, like, sometimes you'll see bills 60 pages or more. It's not super common. Most of them are much shorter than that, but it's not uncommon to see longer ones as well. You'll have the lengthy text in the bill text itself, and then the fiscal note's going to be much shorter. So it's another way to kind of streamline your focus and kind of quickly get an understanding of what's happening in that big text. So the fiscal note might get a little bit longer depending on the length of the bill, but your fiscal notes are always going to be much, much shorter than a really lengthy bill. Yeah. And let's reiterate the fact that they don't show up immediately. So you need to keep clicking back and seeing if the fiscal note is there, and it says that on the Capital Watch
and also on the bill page.
Yeah
On the General Assembly website.
Yeah. And one thing that Omar, can we go back to that for just 1 second?
Yep.
just a resource that I want to point out when at the top there where you see fiscal analyst, that's the legislative staff contact. That's the person that created the fiscal note. So if you've got questions, about the appropriation, about the fiscal analysis that, it just are not, being made clear by the note itself, feel free to reach out to the staff person if it's something that you feel like is a pretty important question that you would really like an answer to. And, things do get crazy during the legislative session, but I think staff is really quite good at responding to people.
I'd say first, if you're new, reach out to your teammates and or one of us, because we've read a lot of fiscal notes. And then if we're stumped, then go reach out to the staff, because they are working probably 20-hour days.
Yeah.
But even, this is maybe a good time to add too. I have found that if you are writing to the staff of one of the sponsors too, they are great in responding. I think they appreciate the league. And they appreciate the league interest. And I've gotten very full responses in emails from them. So.
Yeah, I really, I have to echo the, positive sentiment about legislative staff. They're really great.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, Andrea, do you want back here, or should we go back? Okay. You want the lobbyists?
Yeah, the other thing we want to point out, because this is a nice feature of Capital Watch, Mon, if you could click on the lobbyist link there, you'll be able to see, who is lobbying on behalf of the bill. And, sometimes it's a whole big list of people. Sometimes it's, something shorter, but, you can scroll down and, look at the different organizations and lobbyists for those organizations and see their position there. And this is information that is pulled from the Secretary of State's page. You can see me there, number 58. I am reporting the official LAC position on this. This is a great resource, for public transparency and just to get a sense of, who's supporting what and what kind of stance they're taking. But the other thing that we've been seeing a lot of communication around related to this, we've been having some conversations with Representative Basenecker on some gun safety related legislation, and he had indicated that he had asked his staff to pull the lobbying lists to figure out, what kind of stakeholders and organizations that he wanted to reach out to when he is in the process of developing the bill, getting feedback. And so we were contacted as a result of this. So we're required to report the information, but it's also really useful to us because that's a good example of people using this information to figure out how to form coalitions and how to focus their stakeholder outreach.
And once or twice, very rarely, I've been kind of stumped on what I would want to recommend on a bill. And I've reached out to some of the supporters or opponents and said, give me your take on the bill, please. I'm trying to figure out what I should recommend. And sometimes they get back, sometimes they don't, but sometimes they will get back and say something that's helpful.
Yep.
Anything else on Capital Watch?
The only other thing that I would mention is I think as we've transitioned over the past several years from a print version of Capital Watch, or I'm sorry, not Capital Watch, the legislative letter to the legislative action report, as we refer to it now, one of the reasons that we did that is because of the interactive nature of this list. And so the comprehensive bill summary that you saw, that's all information that at one point was going into the print version of the legislative letter. And we just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that it's not that we stopped compiling that information, it just is in a different form. And now we have the benefit of the real-time updates and the various links for additional information that our members can interact with as well. So it looks a little bit different, but we're hoping that there's just more information available to our membership and to the public by doing it this way. And then we've also, on the Legislative Action Report webpage, we've also got articles as we have in the past too. So just know that that's there. I think longer term LAC members are pretty well aware of that, and obviously help compile that information for the page each session. But it's a great thing to be mindful of, and get the word out to your local league so they know it's there too, because we do get a lot of questions about what LAC is following. So we want to channel them there and make sure that they know about that, so they have ready access to that resource.
And the other groups would be the task forces too. So make sure if you're a member of the task force that other members know about these resources. The more people that we can have knowing what's available to them, the more efficient and better we will be working as a league.
Mm-hmm.
Good points also.
And I think that's all I had on this page, Mon.
Okay. Do we want to show them a bill? Now this one was
yeah,
signed, so it's
on
going to
out
look
there.
differently.
This one looks a little different because it's a final act. So
Right.
when you
Right.
see it before it's been signed by the governor, it's going to look a little bit different. But
They can look on Monday or Tuesday and see what's
Yes.
been posted already.
there will be legislation right
Yeah.
out of the gate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in terms of kind of the gist of the text, it's similar.
just
Okay, I think slide 17 is what you've just been showing them, so you can skip over that.
Okay.
As well as 18. That looks like some of these we just went through. And we've clicked on the links. So I would go right down to 21.
I don't have slide numbers. Is this the one you want, Kathy?
Where are you? Wait, points. Yes, points to keep in mind.
Okay.
Kathy, can I jump in with, I see
Yeah.
Rhonda, you posted a question about access to Capital Watch. Longer term members will know that we've experimented with different ways of using Capital Watch in the past. And we're trying to strike the balance between giving you all the tools and information that you need to do your jobs, but also not overburden you with having to operate the system and input information. So where we've landed on that is that you all don't actually need access to Capital Watch. I just need you to forward your bill summaries to me, and I will input that information into Capital Watch. I may make, minor edits for consistency purposes, or, to kind of clean things up if, there might be typos or, formatting that needs to happen. But for the most part, I'm not going to, really edit something that loses your point or takes away your voice. We want to be very consistent to that, but we want to do that so you all can really focus on being out there and using the tool, but not having to navigate the system and doing like the inputting and all that. So you don't actually need input, or you don't need to input the login information. The master bill lists that we showed you, that's information that is available without login. So you all should be good to go, but if there are any additional questions on that, let me know, because I know there's been a little bit of back and forth on that, but we're really trying to get to a place where we're hitting that balance between giving you as much information as you might want, but not making it burdensome for you, because we know that there's a lot to be done during the legislative session. So we're just trying to kind of streamline things.
And
Um,
another thing would be that when you finish your draft summary, let your team members know so they can take a quick read. They're not long. They can take a quick read and make any suggestions for revisions to make it a little bit clearer if it needs it. Otherwise, they might just say it's great.
The other thing is, if you, before LAC discusses a bill, if you want to look up the bill in Colorado Capital Watch, you can go to, it won't be in our master bill list yet, but you can go to the public facing page of Colorado Capital Watch and look up the bill, which I've done. That will give you access to the lobbyist information, which is the rest of most of what's on Capital Watch is available from the General Assembly website, the General Legislative website also, but the lobbyist list is not, and that's can be an especially useful thing if you're trying to figure out, wrap your heads around a bill.
I saw Fran Feinerman, I think, had a question in chat that I was not able to read again.
So Laura Stevens, does Bill Tracker provide a schedule for public discussions, hearings, and voting?
That's on the status board. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about the status board in the minute. And can you find out why some organizations are monitoring or amending? Sometimes that's clear from the bill. If it's something that is going to impact housing, all the realtors will be monitoring or supporting or opposing. And sometimes you need to do a little more sleuthing. And Peggy, the league position is going to be on the master list.
Yeah, the
And
master
the bill tracker is on the legislative action page on the
Yep.
state league website.
Yep, that's coming up.
Which is coming up. So. Sorry,
That's okay.
Kathy.
I think we're up to, I think we covered the points to keep in mind.
Okay.
Read amendments. Yeah, make sure the one we didn't talk about too much was read the amendments as they come, because they can change the bill.
They can drastically change.
Yeah, so make sure you
the bill.
read that. And because not very often, but sometimes we do change the league stance that we take on a bill because of changes. So, okay. All right. So this slide just shows you the website, our main website for the state. And I have an arrow showing where legislative action is. So you want that drop down menu, and much of this has been in where the league stands. It has lots of good information. It's very long right now. And so it'll be one of the things that we're going to be working over the next few months is trying to make the information on some of these pages more accessible. But that'll be coming up. But that's where you want to go for a lot of this. Once you go to the next slide. Okay. On this slide, this is in where the league stands. And we always make our decisions based on the positions, the state positions that we have and the national positions. And I believe these are live links that you can bring up. Yeah. Okay. So here, and like personally, I've never printed out any of these. I always go online. Each line on this is a link within the document. So it's easy to search for our information and what our positions are. And they'll also show some of the history of what the league has done over the years in these areas. And you can see all the different areas. You may have to go to a couple of different places within this document as you're building your rationale for what positions that, you know, we're going to make. Okay, let's go back and now click on the national. Well, no, you're way, go back. At the bottom, click on that one so people can see it. And its impact on issues. This is another document you're going to want to look at what the National League has said. We can use these in order to build our rationales for support or oppose, amend, or continue to just follow, you know, a bill that's going through. But this is, I think this is what gives us our strength. We can talk from our positions. Okay.
And I keep the PDFs of the state and national books on my desktop.
Yeah.
That's my easy way
Yeah,
of doing it.
I think we all have our
We all have our ways.
our different things, our different ways of accessing these. Okay, the next slide, let me go down here. This slide is from, again, 2022. Andrea and Hannah will start putting up where we're tracking bills. So if you want to follow the bills that we're tracking quickly, you can click on one of these links and it will take you to the bills that are active at that point that we're following. This photo, this screenshot was taken in the midst of the 2022 session. So not all of the bill areas have been presented, and it'll go up after a bill has been presented to the LAC, after we've had that discussion about the bill and decided what our stance will be at that point. So that's when it'll go up and be attached to these links. Okay, next. Oh, I'm not down. I'm waiting for you to go down, but it's not on the screen that I'm looking at. This slide and the next two after it, they're great. Okay, that's all I can say. They're going to be really handy for you. I have it on my desktop so that I can link to it quickly. If you want to get to the General Assembly website, you want to click on it. We're going to go back and forth fairly quickly through some
You want
of
this?
yeah.
Kathy?
Get the General Assembly website up so they can see what's happening on here. Just even on this page, you'll see how you can access a bill. If you want to go that way, you'll see what the sessions look like and what you can click on the agendas, which committees are meeting. So this is a handy, this is the home page of the General Assembly. And that's a handy piece of information, you know, that you can use to navigate. There's all sorts of good information on the General Assembly website. We're going to go through that a different way, but instead of this. So let's go back. Okay. If you're going to sign up, I'm going to back up again. Click on the watch and listen to floor proceedings. That's going to be a handy link for you because you'll be able to watch what's happening. Obviously, nothing is going on right now. It will start up next week. And so that'll be a good way to, you know, to access the hearings. Let's go back to the useful links page again. Okay. The sign up for, click on the sign up for remote testimony. And this is the page that Andrea showed previously. So now on this useful links, you can get to it quickly and be able to sign up to give testimony or to send written testimony in too. That's another thing you may find yourself doing in some of these bills. Let's go back again. We don't have to click on it, but that bottom one is the page that Andrea showed with all of the different committees and the committees. You know, I take that back. Click on this one. Yes, and scroll down. Now, the committees of reference, these will be the formal committees that are going on that are reviewing the legislation. Keep going down to the year round. Or yeah. Okay. I found, and Andrea, you and Maud can chime in on this. The Legislative Council has been one of the year-round committees that I've clicked on and gotten information. And the Legal Services was another one just this summer that I was looking for information on what happened in the interim committees, which are the committees below. Those are the ones that go into action after the formal legislative session has ended. And so they're working on all these committees worked through the summer and the early fall, and most of them, or some of them, have put in to have a bipartisan legislation entering into the list of bills that are going in at the beginning of the session. So this is a way to get a handle on what's coming up in the next legislative session. Okay, I just wanted to let people know about those.
Kathy, I'll add
Yeah.
that the full list of bills that were recommended by the interim committees is on the legislative action report page as a brief article. And
Yep.
I think there's a link on there that will probably take you back to the committee pages. I don't quite remember how I structured it offhand, but it's got that information there. And it also went out to our full membership in a fairly recent newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't taken a look at that, you may just kind of want to scroll, especially if there's an interim committee that deals with the subject matter that you'll be focused on through the session. You may have already been following it through the session. If so, that's great. But, as Kathy mentioned, it's just a good sense of what some of the legislation is going to be as the session gets underway.
Okay, let's go to the second.
Thank you for doing that, Kathy,
Yes.
Andrea.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Let's go to the second page of this. And as a newbie a couple of years ago, when I joined the Legislative Action Committee, I was reading some of the things, about these bills, and it was like, what do they mean by that? Okay. And this legislative lingo page can help you. It's like a glossary of the different ways that they say things that might not be so intuitive to you. So if you don't know what a phrase means in the bill, go to the legislative lingo link. The other two links that I think you may use often are our program books that I showed just a couple of minutes ago. And these are handy links to both, to both of those documents. Okay, go to the next one down.
I had to learn what a cow was.
Oh yeah, exactly. What is the cow? What's a cow? What do you mean? Yes,
the committee as a whole. Oh,
yes.
Sure, of course.
Like, okay, just say all of them.
And LAC uses cow a lot too. So new members will hear longer term members saying cow. It's just an easy way to abbreviate. Who doesn't like to say cow? Funny.
And then the last three links on the useful link document is the website, how to get to our Colorado League website quickly and easily. But this next one, the next one down is the status board. This is so handy because this is the daily schedule of exactly what's happening. You can get to the hearings quickly this way, whether it's on the floor of one of the houses or in the committees. You'll use this one a lot, I think. I know I have.
If you haven't put it on your phone, you might want to do that, especially like I was talking earlier with upon adjournment and, you're just figuring out like, okay, how long do I have to hang around? You know, it's almost a real-time update. And the other thing that's nice about it, it's a little hard to tell, you can kind of see at the top, but once this is populated, particularly on the committee pages, you'll see all the committees listed that have got action that day. If it's on your phone, well, I guess it doesn't have to be on your phone, but for me, if I'm physically there, the phone is just the easiest way to get to it. But you've got those links to the audio. So for House proceedings, you can see the audio link, but you'll also see that for all the committees too. So it's a really easy way to quickly tap into the audio without having to navigate to, you know, the layers of pages through the General Assembly site. So as Kathy mentioned, it's just a really handy link.
Yeah. The other thing you can see on there are documents they're going to be talking about sometimes. It's not always all of them, but documents that the committee will be talking about. And you'll see the agenda on it for that committee meeting. So it's just there's a lot of really good information that you can access, and you do that by just clicking on the audio link, and it'll take you to it. And you'll see, if you go on there on Monday or Tuesday, you'll see how this is populated and how you can just click on each one of the committees as well. So it's a great page. It's one that as an LAC member, you're going to want to use often.
It's got vote information on it too, which is really interesting.
It's terrific. It really is one of the
Super
handiest things. And then we have the LAC member list, and that's going to be updated. We're in the process of updating it because we want to see which one of you people, how many of you people, hopefully many of you will join us in the LAC. Okay, next.
Do you want to go to our action webs page and just briefly run through it?
Which one?
It's a mess.
I don't know. Which one are you talking about?
This one. It's this is the section that Andrea was talking about that she did with all the interim bills that were approved. So in reverse order, sort of like a Facebook feed, this is everything that was produced during session as far as reports. And this is the overall report on the whole session.
And you can see why we want to kind of make links so that you can access some of these sections more quickly than having to scroll down and down.
Here's one link to the master bill tracker that these are articles that were written during the session. This is much, though not all, of our member testimony, and this is actually an excellent way if you're a newbie to read through some of these testimonies and get a feel for what our style is. They're generally one page. We only have usually 2 minutes, and then these are the bill trackers for individual. This is the longer list of information, but it's topic specific. It goes to Capital Watch. So
okay. All right. We use action alerts sparingly, but we do use them to try to get as many of our members across the state to write or call into their legislators' offices. All right, so that we can push whether we would like a bill supported, whether we would like it opposed. But our membership is powerful because of the numbers of people we have across the state. So we can contact many of the legislators through our action alerts, and they're easy to do. And we can see how much of our membership has joined in with one voice about a bill that's coming up. So please push these with your own local leagues memberships, that they respond to these because it adds to our power. And when we're working with partners, it just expands the voice, you know, on what to do with bills.
Yeah, we get hundreds and hundreds of members responding
Yes.
to the action alerts, which is very strong. But
Mhm,
we do only a few each session.
mhm, mhm.
Don't have to get the second hand out to count them.
Right. Okay. Next one. We talked about the position books already. We as a league only take positions on we only take stances on issues that we have positions for. And again, we use the Colorado book and we use the national book for our positions. When you are thinking about fashioning your summaries and fashioning your rationale, we look at these position statements very broadly. And that helps us to make it relevant for the bills that we're working on. Several times it may be that you are going to combine positions, position statements from different topic areas because they all feed into, you know, feed into a bill that's coming through. And Maud and I were talking to part of the leadership from New York State, and we were talking about the, you know, I think this was after you got off, but we were talking about a health bill, but how positions on gun safety and education all fed into support for a particular bill. So think broadly as you're thinking about the positions that you're going to use in your rationale. Okay, I think that's pretty much all I want to say about this one. These are the books. We showed you the books. We showed you that you can get to the books through the state website. You can get through them to the useful link document that you'll be getting.
And of course, this is an old snapshot. The new one is 2022, 2023.
Yeah,
That's what's on
is.
our website.
It
So
is. Okay, let's go down. Don't forget to look at the U.S. League's principles. We've used the principles sometimes as the primary argument for supporting or opposing bills. So remember to use the principles. They're stated at the beginning of our state book and as well as in the U.S. book.
the US has not yet put out their new updated book. We will link to it when it goes up and we find it. But at the moment it's the 2020-2022 version. There were a few new positions adopted at National Convention last June that are not in the old book, and I distributed links to those.
Yep. The links are, maybe we can add that, actually add that link.
Add those.
Because it's to the useful links document, because it's easy to, it's one of the few things it's easy to find on the US website. So maybe we should do that. Okay, taking a position on a national issue. We can do that if the US puts out a call to action, and you might want to make sure that you get those calls to action. You can sign up on the US League for those. Or you can take a position on a national issue if you have permission to do so from the US League. In order to do that, you want to coordinate efforts with our state league office. So you want to let Beth Hendricks know about this, because instead of looking like a bunch of separate local leagues that are taking positions, again, we want to coordinate what we're doing so that we can have a stronger argument for taking a position. So be sure you coordinate that or your local leagues coordinate it with our state office and with Beth Hendricks. And then you'll write a report on what's happening with that. And we've added the links below on the form that the federal, the US
Action.
League is going to be asking for.
Yeah.
And so everybody is well informed by doing all of this, and that's just what we're trying to do. Okay. Next one. Okay, we're going to briefly talk about this. One thing that the LAC is responsible for is to look at ballot issues and to decide what kind of stances we're going to be taking on ballot issues. This was one thing as a new person, I didn't realize that we did, but we've been, definitely involved in our Colorado ballot issues with this election as well. We make recommendations to the state board. The state board discusses those recommendations, and they vote on the LAC recommendation, which can be, again, support, oppose, no position at all, which, if you remember some of the ballot measures this time around, we don't have a position, so we didn't take a position, or we can stay neutral on them. So that's just an additional activity that we take part in. We also take part in writing some of the summaries about the ballot issues. So we'll read what's been written about them. And as I think Maud said, you can either get a referral from the legislature for a ballot issue that will be voted on by all of the voters in the state, or you'll have citizen-initiated measures as well. And so those are the two ways the ballot issues get on our ballot. Okay. All right, let's go to the next. Questions? Anybody?
There is a question in the chat. Stephania asked if there's a parallel national LAC group. No, there are a couple of topic issues at the national level. There's a healthcare committee. There's a climate emergency group. I don't know if there are any others.
Well, there's the federal lobby committee, or
Right, but those are local to DC. Those are people in DC and
yes,
no?
they
Yeah.
are local. They're people in DC, but they follow federal.
Right,
areas.
right, but I think they physically go to the US Capitol.
Yeah.
So it's not so easy for someone from Denver to do that. So
Exactly. Yes. Correct.
and it's
National has
operated-
a lobby.
right.
They're all
Yes.
based out of the
Yeah.
DC area.
Most definitely. Yes.
Right, yeah, they have paid lobbyists, but they also have volunteers who physically go to the Capitol, but they only go on instruction from LWVUS. It's not as bottoms up as the Colorado Legislative Action Committee is.
Mhm. Other questions?
More questions?
While you're thinking of them, let's just go to the next slide. This is just a reiteration of what Maud said earlier. We meet every other Friday. Next Friday is the first meeting. We meet from 9 a.m. to 11. We try very, very hard to honor that time block. And we got pretty good at it last year, sometimes even stopping before 11 o'clock. The legislative session starts on Monday, so it's exciting. Start checking your topic areas for bills because they will be posted then. And last
Starts
one,
Monday, not Wednesday. Just a question, Monday, not Wednesday.
it's Monday.
Monday, yeah.
I think they're sworn
Oh.
in on Monday. I don't know everything that's on the agenda.
Yeah, Monday might be friends and family swearing in day and not much else.
I saw Pat Berger asked a question. And it really is
Oh.
a distinguishing, she's asking about distinguishing features basically between the task forces and the LAC. So I'll let one of you tackle that one. Since I
So the
can't-
Legislative Action Committee is the group that is authorized to lobby the legislature on behalf of the state league. Task forces are not, there are overlaps. Every task force has at least one LAC member. But the task forces are not lobbying groups. So we encourage people to join the task forces. But the function is a little different. The task forces do a lot of discussion, a lot of education, a lot of work. But
And they have a statewide focus. So
yeah,
it's really, it's really interesting conversations because you're getting the perspectives of members, of league members from, and general public from across the state. So it can really broaden your understanding of what's happening with, basically with government across the state.
yeah. Betty asked, does a call to action allow the local league president to write to the legislators? A statewide call to action allows any league member to write as a league member to their state legislators. So they're local
writing as a
presidents and-
constituent. It's
Right.
important that you understand that the distinction. The calls to action are asking you to write as a constituent of
and a
your
league member.
And you can say you're a league member, but you do not speak for the league. So that's a distinction there. And legislators respond to constituents.
Yeah. And Patricia Berger said she's generally not available on Fridays. There is no one time that everyone can make. So we've gone round and round about whether we should keep Friday morning meetings. And I know there's somebody else who's interested who is tied up on Fridays, and there just is no one time that works for, sadly, there's no one time that works for everyone.
But we need people to be there to participate in the discussions. It's important.
Yeah.
That they participate so that we can come to consensus on the state stance.
But Patricia, if there's a topic that you're interested in that we have a task force on, absolutely join the task force. Speak first, please. And Betty says, can't the local league president speak for the league in a call to action? Yeah, it's a state, it's a speak as league, I would think. Yes.
Speak as local league.
As local league, right.
Yeah.
So. Good questions.
Yes. I'm going to go to the last slide. Here's how you can get a hold of the three of us. And also you have the path on the bottom to how to get to the State League Advocacy Toolkit. And when you do that, you need to log in. You need to make sure you log in so you have access to the document library.
Did we miss any questions in the chat? I was trying to follow, but I'm clearly imperfect.
Let's see.
Just yell at this point, just yell out if you've still got a question.
Yes, well, yeah. I was going to say we can take down that last slide so we can see each other.
Yes, we could do that.
Okay. Questions.
Hello, everyone. Wow, we've got 3 pages of people. Cool.
Very cool. Well, I know
Yeah.
we're excited about what's happening, with the legislature and what will be happening with the legislature. It's been interesting. I'm going to put a plug into, for some of the partner organizations that we belong to, because some of those partner organizations have had legislative previews with some of the legislators who have come in and talked about legislation that they are going to put forward, or areas that they're going to push for in the coming session, which has been really interesting. I was on one yesterday for education, and it helped me to know where to start aiming some of my thinking at. And what they're feeling is important.
Kathy, this is Robin Bowman. I was just wondering, for this meeting coming up on Friday, can anyone join in, or do you need to join that particular group, or what? I was just curious.
Those are the beginning meetings for the Legislative Action Committee. But I don't know if many of our meetings are not open to people.
Okay.
One thing I'll mention though is that unlike the state league task forces, to be a member of LAC, to be an LAC lobbyist, you do need to be a league member.
Yes.
So just know that we very much encourage people to join. It's an easy thing to do, but LAC members do need to be league members as well.
Yeah, to speak for the league, you need to be part of league. So.
Do any of you seasoned LAC members have words of wisdom? Because we have several new people who are joining us this year.
And we have some wonderful deep experience here
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a couple of really experienced faces.
This is
Tony,
Mary. I would just
Jeanette.
say keep asking questions until you get it.
Yes.
Good point, Jerry.
And I would say perseverance
Mhm.
and stick-to-itiveness.
Mhm.
Sometimes it seems like things are either going too fast or they're going too slow, but just hang in there.
Mhm.
And I would say, if you know you have one particular bill that you're really interested in, I would try to focus on that and get the information. I think, as Maud and Kathy and Andrea all said, if you don't understand the language in the way the bill is presented, go to the fiscal note. It helps a little bit more. And it never hurts to try to contact the bill sponsor to get a better understanding if you're questioning what's going on. But if you're part of a social policy group or environmental group, talk to somebody else that has done those bills to see if you're reading a bill correctly. Not that there's a wrong way to read a bill, but sometimes the language is a little convoluted, and a couple of eyes on it can give you a better interpretation of what that means and where you should be headed. It can be a slog, and I do think Colorado has a really good open system for hearing bills, although we have issues with other stuff. But compared to other states, and I've lobbied in New York and in Massachusetts, and you want to see a convoluted system, look at those two legislatures. But Colorado is really pretty open. The bills get heard. In the beginning, it's nice and easy to follow, and then towards the end, all hell breaks loose, and it's chaos, and it's hard to find out when things get scheduled. But if you're patient and sort of, as Tony said, be persistent and stick-to-itiveness, and you're not a failure if you don't find something, because things move so fast at the end. But I'm hoping if things can get back so that we can be in person, I do think that helps a lot. And
But then that
seeing
would,
people eye to eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeanette, the LAC is not going to meet in person because we now have members
all over the state.
Yeah,
all over
around
the
state,
the
yeah.
state. So
And we love it.
Yeah.
And we love
yeah,
that.
it's wonderful having people from all over.
Oh, I think it's
and I
outstanding,
think that
yeah.
makes us a
No,
lot
I'm-
stronger.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I think if you can get down to the Capitol, sometimes you can be outside a hearing room and you can find out the lobbyists that are some of your compatriots, and you can end up talking to them while you're waiting for a bill to be heard, and you get new perspectives. That has, I think, that was always helpful for me. So you can meet face to face, real other lobbyists on a bill, even those opposed to bills,
Yeah.
and find out what their rationale is. If you think there are amendments, you can talk to them about amendments. It was a way to do it. Now, I think doing Zoom for LAC is great.
The other
Tony, you
thing-
had a comment.
Yeah. Tony?
You've talked a lot about the teams and the task forces. And I am wondering, if you organize the LAC teams, how do you do that? And then what about the task forces? Who organizes them, or are they just whoever wants to come to them?
Who
So
wants
the
to-
teams are issue teams are subsets of the LAC. Like, we're hoping there will be an education team. I'm hoping there will be a revenue team. I'm hoping you'll be on both of them, Tony. The task forces are not lobby groups, and they are open not only to league members, but to any member of the public.
Mhm. Mhm.
But the task forces do not lobby. They can make a recommendation to LAC on a bill. They could say, we really support this bill and we want LAC to support it. But they do not, as task forces, lobby.
But they
Does that
do,
make-
one of the things they do is give presentations that are statewide presentations. For example, one is going to be coming up with our gun violence prevention task force. That should
And the
be,
elections task force is going to hold one January 31st on special districts.
So who convenes the first team meeting or team get together for the LAC team meetings?
I think that's within the team where they're going to find out, they're going to figure out what time is a good time to chat.
So I would
Well,
recommend
you
that
know.
people, oh, go on, Tony.
Do we know who the team is?
So I would recommend people save the chat, because we all introduced ourselves with what issues we were interested in. And I'm in fact planning to use that to hoover up who might be on a revenue team and find a time for us to meet.
And I think the teams hopefully will become much more clear after Friday's meeting, when we see, who's joining, who wants to cover each issue area. And then, we're continuing to build the team approach. So I think, last year we had a few sizable teams, but we're hoping that they grow this year.
Mhm.
And, as Maude mentioned, we kind of want it to be something where, we're not dictating when the team meets, but you all are, figuring out either a way to meet or, have a call or, whatever works for you all. So you have that opportunity to talk prior to the LAC meeting.
And Hannah, of course, is fabulous and said she's going to send the chat out to everybody in the follow-up email. So don't worry about saving the chat. Hannah's got us covered as usual.
There was a question related to the task forces. Laura, I see that you asked if each task force has an LAC representative. That is a key requirement of the task forces. We know that there's going to need to be coordination and communication, because we do really see them kind of working in combination to a large extent. That being said, I don't know that we have that position filled for every single task force, unless I am forgetting something. But that is something that is really a requirement, because we know that we need to have that point person. And I think that we've got them in place for most task forces. There may be one or two where we're still working on that.
And Andrea is in almost every task force meeting, and Kathy and I have divided them up between the two of us. So there is, of the three of us, one or two of us at each task force
okay.
meeting.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So, it's a good source of information for us as well.
Yeah.
When we do that, I want to say one thing. I want to back up for 1 minute, because when I asked for seasoned members to make a comment, one thing that popped in my mind, and I can't remember, I think it was maybe a comment Jeanette made. I found that listening to committee testimony has really helped me understand better about the impact of a potential bill on different areas of the state, where, I'm a city girl. I live in Loveland, but I'm a city girl. I have never lived in a small town other than Lincoln, Nebraska, and that was bigger than here. So, so that perspective is really handy for me also to understand. So listen to the committee meetings. I think you'll find them very interesting because of the wide range of people who testify.
Other questions, comments, or words of wisdom? Peggy, you've been quiet.
Well, I was thinking about just mentioning PI'd. PI'd is a
Oh.
common term, and you'll see it in the lingo, but postponed indefinitely
Yeah.
basically means killed.
Yep.
So, this happens in the committee hearings. They have a motion to postpone indefinitely, and that means it's not going to go any further if that
Yep.
passes. So PI'd is a big thing that was kind of a mystery to me for a while.
Yeah.
And I was thinking also, when you were talking, what is a strike below?
Yeah.
Say it again. What is what?
A strike below.
Oh,
Tony, what is a strike below? You're a really seasoned person.
It means that the whole bill is wiped out and they replace it with something else.
yeah. Yeah.
So there are different terms for that in different states. In Colorado, it's strike below. In California, I believe it is gut and amend. In Nevada, my favorite Capitol reporter referred to it as jack up the old bill and drive a new bill underneath. But in Colorado, it's called strike below. It's called, here's a bill that's gotten further through the process, and we have this other bill that died. And so we're just going to gut this bill that got where we wanted it to be and put in the bill that had died. And therefore we resurrected something, because they'll do that with a bill that's been PI'd, right, Tony? That they'll stuff it into something else. No, they don't.
I know that it won't be the same, that it won't be the PI. That's a different process.
Oh, that's a different process. Okay.
Or they might stick an
title-
addition in, in an existing bill. So they'll add the statute.
The other thing that's really important to know is that every bill has to be a single subject.
Hmm.
So it can't be like Congress, where they keep adding things and adding things and adding things. It's going to be the subject of the title is going to be it's going to be in the bill, maybe with a few fudging here, a little fudging here and there, but generally it's one subject.
Yeah, and I'm going to tag on Tony. Sometimes just reading the title of a bill, I can look at it and go, oh my God, this could open it up to all kinds of things. Now, I do environmental stuff, so, but if I see some broad title, I go, oh God, anything in a Christmas tree can be added to this. Or, so you do have, it has to be single subject, but it can be such a broad single subject.
Which is
So be
why
careful
you,
what am-
yeah, that's why
Yeah,
you read the
amendments.
draft. That's why
Yes,
you read the
yes.
draft.
Well,
In
yeah.
education, we can have nice fluffy titles. Okay, fluffy, that
Yes.
sounds really good. And then you read it and you go, oh my God.
True. It's
Yeah.
true.
Any other words of wisdom, or what did you say?
Well,
Well, I'll go back to Capital Watch. Are we really, as like, for instance, I used to get things from Capital Watch that told me what was going on with elections and voting and with immigration. Like a bill was introduced or a committee hearing's coming up or whatever. So are we gonna get that anymore, or do we need to be looking at the public face thing?
You will still get that, Peggy. Once we know who's covering what areas, and we've got our membership list a little more settled after that first meeting, I'll input the contacts for the appropriate topics, and you'll get those email notifications for the bills that we've entered into the Capital Watch system. So if we're talking about if you're kind of keeping your eye on something that you know is probably coming down the pipeline but hasn't been introduced yet, you'll need to monitor that likely through the General Assembly site. But for bills that we've entered into the system, which would mean that we're either supporting, opposing, or monitoring, then you're going to get those notifications that tell you when it's coming up for a hearing and where it is in the process.
All right.
Good question. Anything else? Fantastic.
It's Amy. I just want to welcome any newcomer. I'm with the environmental group and just wanted to say that if you have any questions, we're all here to help you. So don't be intimidated. Join, come to the first meeting, see if you want to follow any kind of type of bill that is in your basket, and see what you can do, because you learn by doing. So
Yes.
welcome to everybody that's thinking about it or deciding. So look forward to meeting all of you.
And you'll learn a lot. It's so much fun.
Yes.
Because of that, you'll learn a lot.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kathy and Andrea, I will see you in 45 minutes.
45 minutes, yes, for the next meeting.
Have a good